Catholic Family Podcast presents Lent Around the World, daily traditional Catholic meditations read by our friends from across the globe.
"Whom will you that I release to you?" Pilate cried. "Barabbas, or Jesus, who is called Christ?" A shout as of one voice went up, "Away with this man, and release unto us Barabbas!" Astounded and disgusted, Pilate called out, "What will you then that I do to the King of the Jews?" They cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" "Why, what evil hath he done?" demanded the governor. "I find no cause in him. I will chastise him therefore, and let him go." But again rose up that howl, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Weary of struggle, Pilate called for water and washed his hands before the people, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just man. Look you to it." Oh, the awful shout that went up from the whole multitude there! "His blood be upon us and upon our children!" In vain did the cowardly judge wash his hands. The guilt was upon his soul. On him depended the life or the death of Jesus Christ. Therefore will all Christians to the end of time say in their creed, "Suffered under Pontius Pilate." The rage of the people was becoming more and more ungovernable. They were thirsting like wolves for the blood of this innocent lamb, and now nothing less would satisfy them. Again Pilate yielded, and to appease them and to save Christ without harming himself, he had recourse to the shameful expedient of ordering him to be scourged. Scourging was a punishment so cruel and so degrading that it was reserved for slaves. The poor victim often died under it, and in itself it was far worse than death. Trembling with fear, for he was truly man, our Lord was fastened by his wrists to a low pillar. Then the executioners, standing on a step to deal their blows more surely, struck him unmercifully with their horrible iron-spiked lashes, which tore the flesh to the very bones. His sacred body was soon one wound. From the sole of the foot to the top of the head there was no soundness therein, wounds and bruises and swelling sores, as the prophet had said, and not a friendly face anywhere, none of all he had healed and comforted to help him now. Gasping for breath, he sank at last to the ground, but only to be dragged off to a fresh torment. He had wanted, it was said, to be a king. While the soldiers would have the coronation in their barrack room, they tore off his garments, which they had put on roughly after the scourging, and which clung to his wounded body, threw over his shoulders an old scarlet cloak, and put a reed into his hand for a scepter. Then they plaited a crown of hard, sharp thorns, and beat it down with sticks upon his head and forehead, so that the streams of blood trickled through his hair and ran down his face. Then they got it into line, and marched before him, kneeling as they passed, and with shouts of laughter and cries of "Hail, King of the Jews!" came up to him, some spitting on him, some striking him on the head, all trying who could ill-treat him most. Our Lord was a king, and he felt as only a king could feel, the shame as well as the pain he had to endure. But he sat there bearing all meekly, as the prophet had foretold. "I have given my body to the strikers. I have not turned away my face from them that spit on me." Accustomed as he was to cruel sights, Pilate was struck with horror and compassion when our Lord appeared again before him. The face was so beautiful an hour ago was quite disfigured, swollen, bruised, besmeared with blood. His limbs trembled. He could scarcely stand. The half-closed eyes were dim with tears and blood. The scourging must have been horrible, thought the governor, but at least it saved his life. A sight so piteous would melt the hearts of stone. There was a balcony built over the archway that overlooked the thronged entrance of the praetorium. Here, where he could be seen by all below, Pilate placed our Lord, still clothed with the old red cloak thrown over his bleeding shoulders, his eyes half blind with pain. "Behold the man!" he cried. "I bring him forth to you, that you may know I find no cause in him." "Crucify him! Crucify him!" they shouted. "He ought to die because he has made himself the Son of God." Son of God! Pilate was filled with a new and terrible fear. Innocent this man certainly was, but what if he were something more? What if he were a god? Never surely had man borne himself like this, man with such calm dignity, such invincible patience in the midst of torments and shame. He dared not leave this awful question unsolved. He must see him again in private. "Whence art thou?" he asked, when they were again alone. But Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate, offended, said to him, "Speakest thou not to me? Knowest thou not that I have the power to crucify thee, and I have the power to release thee?" Jesus answered, "Thou shouldst not have any power against me, unless it were given thee from above."